All right, welcome listeners to another episode of the Wholehearted Leadership Podcast. And today I'm extremely excited to have with me my good friend, fellow professional speaker, Joseph Wong. Joseph is the founder and producer of Rise Up Global, and he's also an award-winning human leadership coach, author, and keynote speaker. Welcome, Joseph, to the Wholehearted Podcast.
Hello guys, this is Joseph at Rise Up. Privileged to be invited by Coen to be on his show today.
Fantastic. Joseph and I only met about 2 years ago through a mastermind. But when I listened to his story, I was totally blown away.
Thank you.
You've had a remarkable story that you can definitely share a lot with us about. But first of all, let's get into some common questions we ask our guests.
Sure.
My first question is this: what does being a wholehearted mean to you, Joseph?
I mean, as the word wholehearted is that you need to be fully 100% in, right? And not just 99%. I think wholehearted is, being able to really, I would say the word, wholehearted is about first finding a fire and being able to ignite that fire in you. I think being able to ignite the fire with you, with the fire, you're able to have the vision, and then you'll be able to inspire to do a lot more. Not just for yourself, but I think most importantly is actually for the people actually around you. Yeah.
Wow, I love it. The whole idea of igniting a fire within you and then being able to inspire other people around you. Fantastic. Yeah. So what are some of the obstacles leading wholeheartedly?
I guess maybe the one of the obstacles is that we tend to always, benchmark or rather compare to what the world or what the society wants, right? And I think, we all have the experience, right? Be it, we call it imposter syndromes or trying to do things just because to please people. And I think people who is not able to lead wholehearted, they actually got their baseline completely wrong. And they're climbing against the wrong ladder to even begin with. Wholehearted, I think, require us to actually find our baseline from scratch. Yes, we live in a reality, there is still society and the world. Are we really leaning too much towards that? It's like, how much is too much to even begin with? So I think wholehearted is really begins with finding your own baseline first, before you look out to the world and the reality. Yeah.
Wow, that's deep. And when you mention the word baseline, I think that brings me to the big question. Yeah. Right. I think we find our baseline when we are brought to our knees, when we are at our rock bottom.
Yep.
When we have nothing but our values, our core values, our beliefs, our faith, our spiritual compass to bring us forward. Yep. So let's talk about the recent turning points in your life, like when you hit rock bottom.
Yeah. So the interesting part is that I wouldn't know whether it applies to anybody, but as far as I'm concerned, I think wholeheartedness begins when I was stripped to the bare minimum, right? So when your identity basically actually collapses on you and you don't really know where you are, and that's, I think, the beginning of a wholehearted journey. So I think in 2019, so I was a very active person, back then. And then so I was running my own business, for like 16 over years. And then someone in actually 2019, I still remember it was in the month of March, without any warning or without any symptom, I woke up one day and, I lost the use of all my 10 fingers. The fingers were swelling, and then at night when you go to sleep, the pain radiate down to all your joints, your knees, your ankle. And it was like, the first thing you do is, you look for doctors, you look for specialists. The interesting part is that, after visiting, more than like 7 different doctors, and they were all specialists, all they can tell me to do is, Joseph, you need to be on medication for the rest of your life. And they couldn't really find out, what's wrong with you in the very beginning. And all they can tell you is, you have to be on medication for the rest of your life. So it simply means that I need to live with pain for the rest of my life. It's like, I don't think anybody can accept that, right? And the journey moving into very extreme depression. And in the midst of it, while you are still bearing in pain, I lost my confidence. My confidence went down to sub-zero, and it's a very different thing to suddenly realize that, what it feels like to have zero confidence, right? Because to most people, they always say that, oh, I have no confidence or low confidence, but it's like sub-zero confidence. That's a different thing altogether. So I think going into very extreme depression, on the verge of wanting to end my life story, right? Because when you have mental and emotional pain, your physical pain amplified everything. And that actually makes things worse. So it's until around suffering for 3/4 of the year, somewhere around October, November, somehow I found the root cause, which by medical science, they won't endorse it, but I went into the natural healing protocol. I seek out therapies. I seek out naturopath. I refused to take Western medications because I refused their diagnosis to even begin with. So I started on my own journey of actually discovering not just a solution, but I think more importantly, also discovering myself, confronting, some of the inner demons that's been around for years, because you wouldn't know whether is it a psychosomatic issues, but you want to tackle every possible cause. I was really leaving no stones unturned, right? Everything that I will lay my hands on to find a solutions, I will go and find. I think in the midst of it, the interesting part is that when I was talking to all these therapies, the naturopath, the bioresonance, these are all therapies, and from there you actually understand a lot more about what's the mind, the body, and the soul is really all about. And we realize that, natural healing is holistic healing. Holistic healing is really about, understanding your mental, emotional, and of course your spiritual mastery in the process. Yeah, so that's the long story short.
Wow, you talk about sub-zero confidence.
Yeah.
That was really... I recall you told me that you went from a person who speaks in front of hundreds and thousands of people at once to being even afraid, right, to enter into an elevator with a stranger.
Exactly. And was afraid to enter an elevator with a stranger inside. Was afraid to enter even like shopping mall places with a lot of people. And suddenly it just dawned on me. It goes like, this is not normal because I've never experienced it before. And the part about, you can read about depression, but to experience depression is a different thing altogether. Yeah. And having gone through that, I think a lot of people that went through depression will also agree with me that, nobody can talk you out from depression, right? There comes a day where you need to decide whether do you want to walk out of it, right? I mean, I know of a person that was in depression for 10 years and suddenly one day he snapped. He woke up and he started cleaning the house, right? And the family member was like, what's happening to him? Is he like going to a relapse? But it's just that on that day, he just decided that it's enough and he's ready to walk out of it. So I think that goes the same, for myself. I think when I talk to a lot of people who went through that, we all share the same sentiment. And I think in the journey, people with depression, we all know that they are just standing on the very thin line. Either they walk out or they decided to end their life. So, yeah.
Wow. So what helped you to stay the course? You said that there were several times when you wanted to end your life story. So what was the turning point, or not maybe not the turning point, but what was the thing that made you cling on to? What were you holding on to?
I think first and foremost, of course, God was in the picture. That's definitely for sure. I think I wouldn't have walked through the darkest hour, without the higher purpose and the higher access, right, to God. But at the same time, I still remember I had a conversation with him, and I goes like, 40 over years, is this really why you brought me all the way here in order and then end my story here, right? And of course, I have no answer. But deep inside, the answer is no. I'm not going to end my story here because it just doesn't make sense for me to just end my story because there's so much more that I want to do. Now, the interesting part is that when I was in that very messy stage, the very darkest hour, there is no way for you to look forward and then have a dream or vision to motivate you. It's impossible. It's impossible because you are in the middle of the pain and all that mess. And I lost my ability to make decisions at that point of time because the mind was just full of anxiety and worries. So I knew that the only thing that actually brought me through is I just told myself, how do I just get myself in my sound mind every day? That was my only purpose. How do I keep myself sane? How do I keep myself sound every day? right? And I realized that this is really what it means by living one day at a time. And your vision and your dreams and your goal no longer matters to you anymore. You just want to stay alive until when I find a solution. That's all I need. I just need to stay alive. I just need to stay sound every single day until the solution appears. Yeah, wow. And it's painful because you don't really know, you don't have a timeline, right? You don't have a timeline.
Yeah.
So people comes to you and goes like, tough time don't last, tough men do, I say that's BS because you don't really know is there even a time, right? There is no deadline, there is no finishing line to even begin with. So I know that in order to ensure that, I somehow arrive at the solution when the solution pops out, I need to just ensure that I'm in my sound mind, because if I'm not in my sound mind, I will have end my life story. Yeah, and I think the only way for me to keep my sound mind was every day, I only woke up at like around 12 p.m. because it was not worth waking up, right? I woke up and you couldn't do anything. So I woke up at 12 p.m. and after lunch, I will go down to my void deck, that's near to a park, and I will just sleep at the bench there for the next 3 to 4 hours, right? Listening to my worship song. And then after that, I just go back home, have dinner, and I sleep at 7. So this is like wake up at 12, sleep at 7, spend 3 to 4 hours at void deck, because that was like a century, right? To keep myself sound. And that was how I've been living my life for the entire 2019 until when the solution comes up. So it was really one day at a time. Yeah.
Wow. What I'm hearing is really staying in the game, staying in the game
yeah.
until the solution arrives.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was like, I think during the journey, I think people goes like, the word positive thinking completely has no effect on me. And then when I came back, it was not positive thinking, it was actually possibilities thinking. It was during that period of time, as long as there is a potential solution, a therapies or whatsoever, somebody recommends something, I would just go and I would just try. Because when you try and you try out those possibilities, you'll be able to eventually connect the dots, and it will eventually give you little hope along the way, right? Until you hit the right one, until the solution comes along, and you're just going out and just try those possibilities, which might not lead you to a solution, but it's worth hitting at it. Yeah.
I think what I just heard from you, right, if I can dive deeper into it, right, if you allow me, there are people who use the word depression very loosely. Yeah. Basically, things don't go their ways, people let them down, relationship turns south. Yes, I get it. There is some form of shame, there's a form of sadness, grief. I call that broken-heartedness. But
that's a good word.
Yeah, I think that's really a good kind of like opposite of wholehearted. Yep. You're broken and then you're whole again. But what I'm hearing from you is something even deeper.
Yep.
It's not a matter of, I'm so sad, I'm so broken-hearted. There is an element of helplessness.
Yeah.
Like you're going from diagnosis to diagnosis and no one can diagnose you accurately. No one can find out and explain to you what exactly is the issue.
Exactly.
And basically the diagnosis is like you got to take medication and live with this pain for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
So there's this sense of helplessness. And I think only people who have lived through this helplessness can really articulate what that means. I mean, try your best, right? It's like, how do you describe that sense of helplessness? I mean, of course, you have talked about zero confidence, but what about that sense of helplessness was so debilitating or so disempowering?
I guess one of the things about helplessness was like, when I came back, I was looking at depression, and I just simply split it into 3 different groups. The first group is what I call the more of a mild, depression. Mild depression is something that I say that everybody out on the streets have certain degree of depression. Right? Those are the depression that really don't really bothers you, right? You go and work out, you can do something that you like, and you get over it very fast, right? But there is something always at the back of your mind that you are, ruminating over, right? The second part of depression is like they are really in some trouble, but because you are so busy that you don't pay attention to it.
Oh, okay.
Right? Until something snap, right? You just keep accumulating until something broke, right? And of course, the last depression is the extreme one, which I was into, right? It can be, for me, it was caused by a infection, a illness that just spin out of control, right? And I think in the midst of that helplessness, I think that the best way to perhaps explain helplessness is, if you go into a shopping mall, most of the time you see a lot of people on the wheelchair selling tissue paper, right? Or I went to one of Tomboro market, and I saw somebody seated there selling tissue paper, but one of his leg is totally amputated, right? And all they can do is just to sit there. Now, I resonated with helplessness when I was in that moment and I walked past these people, and I completely understand what it feels like to be seated in a wheelchair. You can only hand out tissue paper and there's nothing else you can do, right? Because you can't move at all. And when I see that, that was like the best representation of what helplessness is for. Because you are there, you want to do something, right? You know you can get your life better, but it's just physically not possible, right? And that was like helplessness. So when I pass by these people nowadays, I can feel for them, right? To know what it's like to be completely helpless. So there was this at the market, there's this guy, he's very young. He's only like maybe around late 20s, right? He's from Malaysia, and then he came to Singapore to work, and then because of a job accident, he lost his leg, right? And he was there selling tissue paper. I couldn't help it, but just to go up, besides donating to him, but to pat on his shoulder and just have a very short conversation with him, right? And because I know what it's like to be completely helpless and not really know what you can do next. Yeah. So that was tough.
But of course, the recovery journey for helplessness, obviously, I'm repeating my words, right? I'm just emotional as I listening to you. Of course, the recovery journey from that also imbue you with certain level of empathy, compassion, and deeper understanding of human suffering. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I guess the part about empathy and compassion was quite alien to me. I mean, we read about it, we know about it. I think before my episode, I was a very left-brain person, right? He's always doing business, P&L and so on and so forth. And then when I came back, suddenly I realized that everywhere I go, I could actually feel for people. Even before my episode, being the eldest in the family, you always have this big responsibility, right? So you have to be hard. You do have to be strong. Sometimes we have to be hard on ourselves to appear strong in our family. So in that years, I've never held the hand of my mom, But interesting enough, when I came back, when I recover, I start actively holding the hand of my mom every time when I see her. And I knew that there's something in me that have completely shifted because I was behaving in ways that I would never do in the past. So when I came back, when I reflected, I knew that the empathy had went up, the compassion had went up. But it went up because I knew what it's like to empathize yourself, to have compassion on yourself. Because I was in a very long suffering journey. I think it's only when we can self-empathize and self-compassion, only then can we actually show people what's empathy and compassion. So I think that have actually shifted. It was a very traumatic experience for me, but when I came back, it was a very traumatic transformation as well. So today when I run my business, people have feedback that I have been using and activating a lot of my right brain, a lot of empathy and compassion when I'm running certain events, conferences, and I was like manifesting and using, the talent and the gift that I've always been given completely, packaged with a very new chemicals, if I may use the word, right? And that's what I'm doing now. Yeah.
And I think obviously we need to. I think life actually sometimes we appreciate life at the polar opposites.
Yep.
Right. Like when we understand what really helplessness is, then we understand what helpfulness is.
Yep.
Because the opposite of helpless is helpful, right?
Yeah.
Often we use the adjective helpful very loosely. Like, oh, Joseph is a helpful person.
Yeah.
As a way of saying, oh, Joseph is a nice guy.
Yeah.
But of course we don't have the vocabulary. We just kind of use helpful as a shorthand for nice.
Exactly.
But I think helpful speaks to something spiritually even deeper. Right? The awareness of others and their needs and the willingness to then extend that helpfulness. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that shows up a lot in the work that you do. We shall go to that in a moment's time, right? We'll talk a little bit about more of the Rise Up conference, but like I think a lot of what you've done is really shifted your focus from left brain, me centric to other centric.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of shifting from I mean you're right to point out that it was very self-centric, right, in the very early days. And when you move your focus from inward to outward, you realize that there is a huge possibilities and transformation that you can actually do. Because I think the world actually opens up, right? So it's like for the 16 years when I'm running my business, it's always been very self-centric. And you realize that I realize that, you also, discount yourself on a lot of creativity and a lot of ideas and possibilities that you can do. But the moment I start shifting inward to outward, you realize that possibilities are endless. Every day you are just like having creativity. You go like, I can do this. There's bigger things that you can do. And when you move from inward to outward, you realize that you are able to actually take on more healthy, I call it a healthy risk, right? Where people feel that you are taking a risk, but to you, it's a very healthy form of risk, right? Because you are so pulled towards your goal rather than pushing towards your goal. Because there's something bigger that's actually pulling you forward.
Wow.
Yeah. I guess most people out there is always, you set a goal and you push towards it. But I say that what's your biggest story beyond your goal that pulls you forward without you trying to push too hard?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
wow. I was about to ask this question, but I think you sort of answered it. But
Yeah.
if you can describe how did your identity have shifted before the episode and after the episode, how would you describe your identity shift?
Wow. How do I put it? I guess in the past I was very limited and restricted to how the world sees me, right? According to maybe society standard, right? You say things or do things that try to please people, right? And maybe you do things that is like consider correct, right? By society standard. But when I came back, I realized that I found my true self. The part about being able to let go of whatever imposter syndromes, and I think going out forward and really deliver a message or perhaps a voice. So in the past, I thought I have a voice, but that was just an imposter voice, right? It's a voice that's not real, that's just running, on the wheels. But when I came back, I realized that I decided to step out of the wheel. And I stopped running, and I start running my own race, right? With my own voice, with the mission of trying to send a message out. And of course, the things that I've been, and because I want to send a message out, all the things that I've been doing actually start appearing, getting help from people. And realize that, I was like one person, and maybe refusing help from others, getting help from others is difficult, to coming back and letting go and going telling myself that I need all the help that I can, and I start reaching out to people, and people giving perspective, taking them, making them better, and making them bigger.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing is that you became more receptive. Whereas in the past, you were more just using your energy and willpower to push for things.
Yeah.
But now what happens is that you're more receptive to the signals, the messages of the universe.
Exactly.
And then obviously you become more empathetic and more tuned in to the needs of other people, and then letting that guide your actions and saying, what can I do next to move people forward, and at the same time allowing yourself to be helped as well.
And I think you summarize it very well, and that's a whole thing which I call this. And when I came back, I realized that this is actually what it means to be living a life that is thriving. Previously, I was striving. But thriving to most people is like, what's thriving, right?
Yeah.
But to me, that was like, it bears some out what living a thriving life feels like, or even looks like, because you are no longer like chasing after something. I mean, people always ask me nowadays is like, Joseph, where do you see rise up to be? And I say, I have no answer. Joseph, what's your plan for the next 12 months? I say, I have no answer. Right? I say that, yeah. And then it goes like, don't you set a goal? I say, I don't have a goal, but I have a vision.
Okay, yes.
Because vision, once again, it pulls you.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
A goal, you need to push. So I've been pushing it for the 16 years, right?
That's so deep.
Right?
That's so deep.
And I've been pushing for 16 years. And where did it get me? It got me nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah. But when I have a vision, it actually pulls me. And I say is that I don't have the 12 months or the 3 years or 5 years plan, because time is no longer of a concern. Because it's asking myself that I only give myself on a 3 months basis. And I ask myself, in these 3 months on a daily basis, what do I need to do to move the movement? What do I need to do to touch base with all the possibilities? So it's actually in the doing that eventually will get me to hopefully to where I am. I think it's in the vision that allows me to pull me towards it and doing what is necessary, to get there. So to me, it's like, I mean, time is like suddenly not in the equation, but it's in the action. I hear one of my friends saying that, you know what is a movement? A movement need to move. Right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And all I need to do is to move.
Yeah.
Do something. Right? Do something. Even every day I was just thinking, what else can I do? What else can I do? And I think when I do something, the result will take care of itself. The momentum will start coming, and when you're moving, and when you hit a particular pit stop on a milestone, then you decide, you know, what's the next step. And rather than set yourself a time that you need to get there, which could be actually unrealistic. Actually,
would you say that this is somewhat related to the darkest days? I mean, I'm sorry to bring you back there again, but it seems like there's a certain pattern here.
Yep.
The darkest days when you couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, there's no time, no time frame.
Yeah.
But you just move, as in like just every day make an intention to stay in the game.
Yep.
And to stay alive.
Yeah. That's a very good parallel. In fact, is almost exactly that was the time where I realized that you start to experience what it's like to just stay in today.
Yeah.
Because you have no tomorrow.
The power of now
to talk about. And you do not want to talk about tomorrow. Because the idea here is that people get anxious and anxiety because they think too much into the future. When they look too much into the past, they have regrets and guilt. Right? So the other way is to actually stay present. So for me, when pain was there, I have no bandwidth to look into the future. And because the more I look into the future, the more depressed I get into, because there was no solution in the future.
Yeah.
So I think you're right that I think when I came back, I realized that there's no need to look into the future. I think it's just to stay in the present, do what we can, start moving things. You know, eventually the picture will appear. Yeah.
So beautiful, so beautiful. Yeah. Well articulated. I mean, even I didn't mention at the start of the podcast that I only know you for a couple of years, but I remember about a year and a half ago when I met you for coffee and we were just chatting.
Yeah.
The energy wasn't always like, I mean, if I may say, you were probably at the early throes of your recovery, and then
that was a time when I just returned.
Yeah. And so maybe there were certain regrets you're having, certain emotions you're still feeling and everything. But today you're so congruent. You speak really like what you mentioned, right? You're thriving, and you're really on fire, right? You can really see the fire coming out of his eyes as he's talking, as you can hear from his voice, right? Even on this podcast, right? I mean, I'm just so moved and wowed, you know, in your presence. So just one final question, really, just to close this whole episode, right? It's like, of course, a lot of our readers write into me and say, hey, you know, if you're going to be interviewing Joseph and his story is very inspiring. They also share with me that they have some friends who are, you know, going through autoimmune diseases and other chronic diseases. The question that they ask me is that now that you're in a better place, what motivates you every day to keep going?
I guess my biggest reason when I came back into the scene, I knew that I need to get my hand onto something really to read or to hear, but I was not ready to go back to the very traditional motivational books that we come across. And I think today in my keynote speak, I always say is that, you know, motivational books are useful for you when life is going great for you. You know what I mean, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So if you are having a little bit of mild depression, you know, you can read a motivation book, it gets you back. But I think when life really throw you or pinch you under a mountain, what do you do? And I realized that during that period of time, no motivational books, video or audio could do me any help. So when I came back, it also shifted my huge perspective into what motivation is like. So when I came back, the first thing I was looking out for was looking for a book. You can call it motivational, but it comes from a very different perspective. So I came across a book called the Radical Remission. Now, for I think some of us that are, you know, having illnesses, disease, or autoimmune, I mean, that is a book that I would recommend you to pick it up. And two things that actually strike me. All right, in the Radical Remission, the book says this. When I saw my doctors for a final review, and my doctors on that day declare me to be in remission, right? She says that remission in scientific terms, it means complete resolution, meaning it's completely not there. And for the person that wrote my report, he needs to be 100, if not 200% sure that it's a complete resolution. So that's how I understand for the medical science. Now, when I read the book, and this book was about these Western doctors went around the world to interview cancer patients, and you know, these cancer patients was like they are given 6 months to live, right? the doctor says that there's nothing we can do for you anymore. Please go back home. You have 6 months. Do whatever you need to do. That's a death sentence. And I was given the similar death sentence by 7 different doctors, right? But these people went back. They didn't live for 6 months. They lived for 20 years, 30 years without cancer symptoms, without Western medications, without medical interventions. They went into remission. So they were very curious what happened. Now, when they asked the cancer patients what remission really means to them, they realized that remission is not complete resolutions to them. They say that the day that you have been declared to be in remission is the day that you need to revisit your mission.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, the day you are in remission is the day that you need to revisit your mission.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, and that was a wake-up call, right? That was the first wake-up call, right? What was my mission? And I need to revisit my mission. If I'm going to come back into the speaking space, what is my new mission? Right? Yeah. And the interesting part is this. The second part of the book that inspired me as well. I hope that it will inspire you as you are hearing this. When we met with cancer survivor, we always love to tell them that, I admire your courage that you fought for your life, right? And this Western doctor was talking to one survivor. He says, I admire your courage that you fought for your life. And the survivor responded, I say, no, I didn't fight for my life. And the Western doctor goes like, what do you mean you didn't fight for your life? And this survivor says that I didn't fight for my life. I just found a bigger reason to live.
Wow.
Right? And it's at that very interesting juncture that the Western doctor paralleled this response to TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicines, right? So in TCM, it says that, we need this qi. Qi in English is energy.
Yes.
Right? We need this qi. The body needs the qi in order to repair, renew, right, and restore the body. A person passes away because there's no more qi in the body. He has left the body. And he says that when a person found a bigger story, bigger purpose, bigger reason, they are re-inviting qi back into the body so that the body can heal, restore, renew. When I read that, I literally ask myself the questions. How can I re-invite qi back into my body?
Wow.
And together with a new mission, and I knew that this new mission is a new qi that I need to bring back into the body. And one thing after another, it leads to the creation, the launch of Rise Up, and of course, yeah.
And it's so powerful as well because it's also something similar to another parallel to TCM and Western medication. Western medication treats symptoms. TCM fortifies your body and your immune system so that you can rise up above that disease.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like finding a new qi.
Finding a new qi. And the idea is that Western medication is always about suppress, right? And I think in the world today, a lot of people are living a life that is suppressed, right? But when I hear from my naturopath, he says that when you are taking the natural herbs, it's not about suppressing your system. It's about activating your body to calm down your system.
Wow.
Because your body have the natural capacity to calm down. You are not activating the ability. You are suppressing the ability.
Wow.
So the body is intelligent. So I think to most people, I think having really autoimmune or whatsoever, I think first and foremost, which I learned the hard way, of course, is to first, I think, fully confident that your body have that natural intelligence to restore, right? Somebody asked me a very interesting question is that I can take all these supplements, but how do I know that it's working, right? Or when I take a supplement, right, maybe a collagen, right? How do I know that it goes to my knee, which I need the most, right? So this lady have asked a lot of people these questions, didn't get the really answer. And I give her an answer. I says that when you take a supplement or a collagen, your body knows where to send it to. You do not need to tell the body where to send it to. Your body have the intelligence to know where to send it to. Right? Because you have the intelligence of its own.
Wow.
But most of the time, we don't trust the body enough. So I think for those people that is perhaps undergoing a very tough patch, because of certain sickness or illness, first, I think be assured and confident that your body has the power to heal, the intelligence to heal. Second, I think is the ability to actually feed your body with the right nutrients. Nowadays, when I go out and eat, I always ask, does this food feed my body with the right nutrients and vitamin? If it doesn't, then don't eat it. Yeah. And last but not least, I think it's very important to, coming back to this podcast is really about wholehearted. right? The ability to be wholehearted and really ask yourself, what are some of the baggage that you need to really let go of? Face an inner demon is hard. It's hard because it requires, when you face an inner demon, there's a process where you need to really break down yourself. But I think the interesting part is that because you break down yourself, you give yourself a good reason to piece yourself back.
Yeah.
Completely new again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this reminds me of the book by Bessel van der Kolk about the body keeps scores, and I think you're spot on that the body actually has a natural intelligence, and
It does.
You need to really honor it. And I think the idea that we can abuse the body and push it beyond, and at the same time also we can pretend that we are not affected by all these undealt with emotional baggages.
Exactly.
It's actually just us not willing to confront when we are either not ready for it, we are finding it too much of a hassle, or we are just kind of scared of what might come up for us. But I think it's really looking the dragon in the mouth and really and willing to enter the dragon.
Exactly. And the dragon is scary though.
It is scary. And but I think we do not want to also wait until we are beyond, almost at the verge of beyond repair before we decide to kind of make that recovery.
Exactly.
But of course, because of circumstances, you have risen above it, and so that's a nice segue into Rise Up. Now, do tell us a little bit more about Rise Up, Joseph, because it's a very inspiring thing for me. But tell us more. Tell the audience more.
I guess when I started Rise Up, it was figuring out what Rise Up really stand for, along the way, and eventually, after talking to like tons of people, Rise Up is very much in the human leadership space. I think to us, it's really about humanizing leadership and the workplace. Wow. But I think to me, Rise Up philosophy always have the 4 S's. And I always say that Rise Up is first, understanding what do you stand for, right? So even when I talk to leaders, I say that, do you know what you stand for as a leader? That is almost like the first questions that could like the biggest obstacle to most people. What do you stand for? And people might not even have an answer. So I say that, what do you stand for? Because if you know what you stand for, you will show up in life and you will show up in work. So if you know what you stand for, you will show up in life. You will be able to step up to whatever challenges and whatever new calling that is actually calling out to you. And when you are able to, know what you stand for, you are able to show up, you are able to step up, then you can positively show off your talent, your gift, and your creativity to the world.
Wow.
And to me, that are the 4 S's, the philosophy of what, Rise Up really stands for. In what we are doing. Yeah.
Wow. So what's the real meaning of Rise Up? I mean, maybe you want to dive deeper, because I think some of our audience may be, religious, and they may also sort of guess the meaning behind Rise Up. Maybe you would like to tell us a little bit more about that.
I guess when I came back in the picture, I came back with a lot of compassion and empathy. That's for sure. And then when I re-entered the corporate space, and of course, after COVID, there's a lot of mental health topics that's going on. And when I came back, it was a lot of movement about, can people be at their, what do you mean by Rise Up? Rise Up is about people at their psychological best, right? Who dare to step up to want to shape the world. So Rise Up, to me, is that everything that we do is about pushing boundaries, right? If you are not pushing boundaries, then why we are doing it? And I was like sharing with leaders as well. I say that a very simple way to gauge whether are you rising up. I always say that there's a difference between rising up and waking up. We know what that means, right? It just hit you on the...
Tell us more. I mean, I get it. But maybe you have a different definition. Tell us more.
I guess most people resonate with it. The day where you wake up each day and you just go to work and you just do the same old stuff. And I say that waking up doesn't require effort. Waking up is a very unconscious process.
Yes.
And you just go through your life unconsciously. I say rising up is a conscious effort. Rising up is a very intentional action of wanting to wake up that day consciously with intentions to do something. So I say that rise up is a conscious effort. Waking up is a very unconscious one. Are you rising up or are you waking up each day? And there is this thing where it says that, every one of us only have around 30,000 days.
Oh, yes.
Right, 13,000 days work to around 83 or 84 years old. And I say that if you look at your life in terms of number of days that you have left, for example, I calculated mine. I only have 15,000 days left or lesser. Some of us have only 10,000 days. When you realize that you only have 10,000 days, You realize that you want to rise up each day and not wake up each day.
Yeah.
Right? And I say this, that rise up is a conscious effort. And anything that's worth doing require us to do it consciously.
Yep.
And because rise up is a conscious effort, making conscious decisions cannot become a habit. Because habit is unconscious.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So it's not a habit, but it's a choice.
Yeah. So I say making conscious choices cannot become a habit, but we can make a habit of making conscious choices.
Oh, I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. It cannot be a habit, but we can be a habit of making conscious choices.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So to me, that's like, it took me like 1.5 years, and then goes like, keep challenging what rise up is all about. Are we really waking up or rising up? Are we living our life consciously or unconsciously? When you are doing something, and I ask myself, when I'm doing something, a movement that's so big, I have to do it consciously. Because anything that's worth doing requires you to.
Wait a second. Did I just hear you correctly when you say that day after day you challenge yourself for the last 1.5 years? You challenge yourself, what does rise up really mean? And that's very counterintuitive, right? It's like you speak with so much conviction and so much chutzpah about what rise up is, right? You seem very, very congruent.
Yeah.
But at the back of your head, you're challenging yourself. Why?
The idea is to, I think, not rest on the notions that I have found what rise up stands for. Because I think every day I'm asking myself, what else can I do? But when I'm asking myself, what else can I do for rise up? I'm also asking myself, how can I expand the definition of rise up? The meaning of rise up, and constantly expanding the meaning of rise up. It's just like the universe is constantly expanding, with no end in mind. And for me to consciously think about what rise up really means for me today, what else can I do today? I'm actually on a very conscious journey. And because I'm conscious, therefore the meaning of rise up continue to expand. But the day that I decided to just make it a habit and unconscious, the meaning stopped immediately. And I won't be motivated to do what I do in rise up if I use a habit, mentality. Yeah.
Oh wow! Listen to these people. I mean, it's like now it's the start of the year, and people are talking about like cultivating good habits to keep your New Year resolution. But right now, what I'm hearing is that habit is unconscious. Make conscious decisions, and I just repeat what you just said. Right, anything that's worth doing has to be done consciously and intentionally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. The intentionality that you're putting out and in your voice.
Yeah.
It's just inspiring. It's
Thank
very moving.
Yeah.
So, all right. I mean, it's almost like for me to ask this question, right? It's like Rise Up also starts with this centerpiece, which is a Rise Up conference.
Yeah.
Right. So you did tell me, I mean, a casual chat, which is something very counterintuitive again to me, especially for us professional speakers. You know, it's like there's always that commercial. There's that dollars and cents element to it. But you just decided that you're going to book a hotel, invite people, and organize a 2-3 hour conference.
Yeah.
And not even knowing if it's going to lead to any ROI or any business at all. Exactly. I mean, that's so counterintuitive. Like, what gave you that faith to just jump into it?
I think when I came back into the scene and when I incorporated my company, Rise Up Global, I closed down my old company that's been running for 16 years. Right, I closed that company down, and I knew that it was a new chapter. There was no turning back. The only way is forward. Right, and it was a very it's like a very symbolic milestone where I decided to leave my past life behind, and I started Rise Up Global. Right, completely. Right, new website, everything from scratch. Right, having to do everything over again. And when I actually came back, I asked myself, what is the first thing that I want to do? Because it's a movement, I'm now motivated, inspired to think so much bigger. And happened that I was talking to a friend that was eventually became my conference partner. And, just 2.5 to 3 months before my actual conference, I just told this friend of mine is that I felt nudged to do something big. And I said that, shall we do a conference? And his answer was, yes, let's do it. And by the time I get the green light, I only have 2.5 months to turn things around. And I just went all out, to invite clients. I curated all the speakers, the team, put everything together. In 2.5 months, I got people together and we launched it on the last Friday of July. And I still remember that week when we actually launched a conference. That week was the week where Singapore just opened up from COVID. and COVID cases was is all-time high, right? And people was going like, Joseph, you must be crazy. What did you do? Conference, at the week. And we reserved for around 50 seats. We were so fearful because one night before the conference, is that 12 people pull out because of COVID, right? It's like 50 people, 12 people pull out. It's like your conference is going to go into the mess, right? But fortunately, on that day, we still have 50 people. Somehow, it turned up, right? And we launched our very first Rise Up conference. And yes, I launched a conference because I know that I wanted the conference to be a place where I can rally people in. Because now I see it as a movement. I don't see it as a program, right? It's a movement that rally people. And that's all I need. I needed to do something that can rally people in. And to rally people and connect people, you need something big. And I launched the very first Rise Up conference. It was successfully launched. And yes, you're right to say that I launched a conference without knowing what is the outcome. It's like taking an airplane, into the airspace, and you don't really know where's your runway. You don't know where to land. But I knew that. So a lot of people say that I launched the conference literally by faith, because I launched the airplane into the air, but not knowing where is my runway to land, right? And I just do it because just now, as I mentioned earlier, to me there is no timeline. Right? There is no timeline.
Yeah.
Right? If you have timeline, you'll be very concerned about, I need to get ROI, how many people should come in, But I launch it without fearful of any timeline. I just want to create not just value, but I want to create a conference that is massive in value and to rally people in. And I know at the back of my mind, I want people to come in to experience Rise Up and to become a advocate or the voice for Rise Up. And that was all I had. That was all I had. And I don't have a lot of money at that point in time, because in the 3 years, my financial was hit very badly. So I came back with a little bit of money, trying to get a conference partner, sharing the cost, and trying to do it everything from end to end. After the first conference, I never thought myself of running a second one, but eventually I still got to running a second one, which was last year. And it was more people get to hear about Rise Up. And we are like in the midst of talking right now. We are like planning for the third one, and so that has been the journey so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Joseph, I think you threw a lot of the playbooks, typical business playbooks out the window, right? It's like all the idea of starting with an end in mind. It's like always think of ROI, track your numbers, track your data. But I think I get it. There is this joie de vivre. In French, we call joie de vivre, which is like the joy of living, translated directly. There's a sense of aliveness, a sense of life-giving energy, and qi, for a better word, that you use.
Exactly.
That comes from the kind of, not exactly a wild abandonment, but a kind of calculated risk, but at the same time a form of risky adventurousness. Like in deciding to those like, lean into your intention, lean into your voice, and see where that goes, what it actually can move in people. And I think that is so powerful, because there's something very primal, there's something very emotional about it. It's like it is like speaking to a very, very raw and essential part of our human existence. The moment you do something of profit, I mean, of course we need to turn a profit. We still need to keep the lights on. But the moment if that becomes your sole purpose or sole mission, it becomes very people kind of like sort of take certain points off, right? Like, they are just trying to make some money and everything like that. And then you just sound like everybody else. So I really like that. There's certain joie de vivre, there's certain second wind, there's certain second chi that you found having rose up. I mean, pun intended, from that near-death experience.
I mean, it's funny because in my second Rise Up conference, one of the delegates, which I caught up for coffee later, she told me that she, in her close to 30 years of experience attending conference, seminars, and all the stuff, right? She has attended tons of it. That Joseph, I came to your conference and I was like very curious and surprised, because you are the only one conference in my 30 years that when I attended, you don't charge and you don't sell. Right? I said, what's the ROI? And I was expecting that, because everybody is asking me what's the ROI.
Yes.
Right? And I say that I mean, to be honest, we have said this, you don't really believe me, but I really don't know what the ROI looks like. I don't. I just know that at the moment of time when I do it, we have like maybe close to 80 people inside the room for the 4 hours. We have fantastic speakers and business leaders, it's a curated events. People come and experience Rise Up. I get to send a message. I get to be the voice for something. At the days, I always share with people that, when people resonated with what Rise Up is doing, I can resonate with the spirit of Rise Up, then they will want to work with us, right? And I will want to work with clients that is willing to rise up too, right? And people that do not resonate with us, then so be it.
I think I know the answer. I mean, the thing that just came to my mind as I'm listening to you, I mean, I don't claim to know your answer, but this is my answer as I was listening to you, is the ROI is infinite, because the outcome of it is love. And people fall in love with their life again. People fall in love with possibilities in their life again.
Yep.
And possibly people fall in love with themselves. And love is priceless.
Yeah. And it's like as I mentioned, it's reinviting the chi back into the body.
Yeah.
Because when I'm doing the conference, it was not about me anymore. It was not about me anymore, right? Because if it's about me, I'll be very concerned about ROI. But it's not about me anymore, and it means that I can do bigger things. So I always share that when the focus is focused outward, you will do bigger things outward. Yeah.
Oh gosh! Wow! That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I think people should stop asking questions like, what's the ROI? The question should be, what's the ROL? Return on love.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah.
What's the return on love? Yeah. Return on love, man.
Yeah. Right. So I know the journey, it took me 16 years and 3 years of darkness to come to this point. Yeah. I guess as you know, I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's like, people always say is that God has a reason.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, during the darkest moment, you can't see the reason. I was scolding and reprimanding and cursing God during that period of time. right? Yeah, I was really doing it, right? All the exploit, all the words that came out,
which is not safe to be repeated here.
Yeah. So when I returned, I start to understand I start to understand that God has a purpose, God has a reason in His very spiritual sense, right? So for most people, they say, oh, God has a reason, but they might not really mean it. So when I came back and witnessing how I suddenly have the fire reignited, found the visions, and then went all out to take on risks that people seems irrational, and able to do something that perhaps people have never thought of. And it goes like, it's, the story has just started.
Oh, love it. The story has just started. Oh, we are almost 50 plus minutes into this podcast and the story has just started. I love it.
But it's an exciting journey down the road. It's an exciting stories. There's many more chapters to be unfolded.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to partake and to journey with you and be inspired by you on this journey.
Thank you.
Joseph. It's like we have really sought to really exciting heights, on this podcast. As you can tell, I'm just increasingly more and more energized as this episode goes along. But we do have to land this plane.
Yes.
Much as you're going to land, you
the
took
tower
off.
is calling.
I mean, much as you sort of like took off and not having knowing where you're going or having a timeline, but we just got to land this plane, right?
Yep.
So we normally end a podcast with some quick fire questions, and just give your quick fire answer, right?
Sure.
And you've been on fire.
Yeah.
Right. So my first question is this: what's the most powerful question you have ever been asked before?
Wow. What's the most powerful question that's been asked before? This is a very cliche questions that my film producer asked me, right? She said that, how do you define success in life? It's a very age-old question.
Yes.
I didn't give a very pretty good answer back then, but after the whole episode is finished, I spent 2 weeks later, the answer came back to me. And I always says that when the questions keep bothering you, it means that you have not really answered it truly. Wow. And my answer to today is that how am I successful today? What is my success definition in life? And my definition today is that the day that I leave this world, I want to leave this world with all my material possession in just a very small box. So if I can leave the world with just a small box of my material possession, I think I'm successful. And people ask me why. I say that because if I can leave the world with just a very small box of material possession, it means that my focus has been about the world. It's not about me. Yeah. But people who leave the world with like cargo trucks or material possession, then I think something is a bit off.
Okay, Chinese New Year is coming. It's a very good reminder for me to do some spring cleaning.
Yeah, exactly. So I say that have a small box, because when you have a small box, it means that your focus is outward and not inward.
Beautiful, beautiful. But your box is small, but your heart is huge.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Second question: who is a mentor or supporter who has made a difference, the biggest difference in your life?
Wow. Well, there was a few that came on board. To me, if you ask me that, spiritually, I say that God has to be the biggest mentor. Yeah. But I think in the midst of it, in my journey, anyone that show up during my darkest hour, I see them as my mentor. Right, from the therapies to the natural path, to people that came in and given me certain insight on what to do. Those are my valuable mentors along the way. So without them, I could not connect the dots and get out of the darkest moment.
Having said all of that, I think it's also incumbent on you being humble enough to receive those signals.
The interesting part is that before my episode, humbleness has never in my vocab. So when I came back, the ability nowadays to say is that I need all the help that I can. Spoke directly about the humility that I get to experience.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. And like you said, heeding the signals of your mentor.
Yeah.
Right? But it also takes an openness to
Takes an openness.
Yeah, sometimes
yes.
we pass by so many signals in our life without even flinching and even noticing them. Final question. What is one of the most courageous things you have done in your life, and you have done many, that has made all the difference? What's the most courageous thing you have done in your life that has made all the difference?
Wow. I guess the most courageous thing that I've done to date is to make the decisions to really close down my old companies and decided to leave my old life behind and live a new one. That's something that a mentor told me that, Joseph, you need to learn how to let go of your old life and live a new one. In my darkest hour, I couldn't understand. But when I came back and when Rise Up was born, I started to understand what it means by live a new life and leave the old one behind.
I am still processing that one. It's a very sobering question.
It is.
Possibly that is a question that I haven't answered well enough, that I need to ponder over the next few months maybe.
Yeah, and I think when I came back, I knew that I'm living a new life because there's so much things that I've done ever since Rise Up was born.
Yep.
So Rise Up is my new life, with new way of thinking, the possibilities thinking, and so much more. And yes, there are still some remaining, leftovers, right, from the past. But you are now ready to meet them and say, I know you're around, thank you for the time, but I'm ready to live a new one. Yeah. And embrace new adventures and new frame of mind, Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph, for being on this show. Where can our listeners find out more about you and your work?
Well, you can always go to the website, riseupglobal.co, or you can just find me at LinkedIn, just look for Joseph Rise Up, and you will get to see me.
Fantastic. We'll definitely post links to Joseph in the show notes. And Joseph, it's been a really wonderful, uplifting, uprising. Maybe, I don't know what other words, right? Maybe uprising is not the word. Sounds like you're starting some revolution. But it
is a revolution.
It's a positive.
Yes.
It's a positive revolution. Yeah. So
thank you for having me on the show. Yeah.
Wow. I think I speak on behalf of the listeners. We have just been treated. We have just been given a real treat.
Thank you.
I hope you have just been as inspired as I was on this podcast interview with Joseph. And once again, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best in continuing to spread your beautiful, your fire, your light, and continue to shine brightly. Continue to inspire many people to rise up. To stir them from wherever they are.
Yep.
And to lift them up to bigger possibilities.
Thank you so much.